37th parallel on America's haunted highway, it's Pixelated Paranormal, your guide to the unusual and the strange.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 231 of Pixelated Paranormal. This is a continuation of episode 230, so there's not much of a need for an introduction. Now, before we get into it, I do want to drop another disclaimer. Just like last time, I want to say that we need to drop a trigger warning. The following episode does contain sensitive topics like death and other things that could be considered graphic and offensive. Now, the names have been withheld from these stories to keep the anonymity of those involved, and as always, people like us use comedy as a coping mechanism, so please forgive any crude jokes or things that may be viewed in bad taste, as, you know, Stephen and the people involved in his stories may use comedy as a way to get through some of the things they encounter. Otherwise, we hope you guys enjoy part 2 of the interview with Stephen about being a mortuary driver. And I want to thank everybody so far for the very, very kind words and interest in the previous episode 230. And with no further ado, here is part 2.
Well, my next question, Steve, since you talk about the pee and shit hoarder, is the smell. So, if you pick up a body and it's a little bit on the ripe side, does that still get to you, or have you gotten used to the smells?
So, smell is subjective, just like humor. Everybody has a different tolerance of smell. First off, there's no fucking smell that will ever be worse than that pee and shit hoarder.
Oh, man. I bet.
Terrible. An average body that dies within like the first day, like a body can lay there for the day, and depending on the condition and if it's hot, if it's cold, room temp, etc. Usually what you're going to smell is piss or shit. But like not like hoarded, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's a different type of piss and shit smell. Like when your toddler or a baby pisses in a diaper or has an accident, you smell the pee, or, same with the poop. So the smell of a body, like, don't really smell it too often, but when you pick up a decomposition, yes, you will smell things, and you have to drive in a van with that body, sometimes an hour away.
Right.
So, yeah, of course the smell bothers me. Used to the smell, you'll never get used to a decomposition, period. We take this time of year, we love it, because the decomping doesn't happen.
Yeah,
that
I
often.
mean, literally, the world is an icebox.
Yeah. It's really cold, and it doesn't get too hot and too humid. And in the winter, people stay inside. They check on people. They're more accessible to the prying eyes of their loved ones and friends and the public. So in the summer, a lot of people like to seclude, and it's too damn hot. I don't want to go out. And so. The smell still does get to me on decomposition, but like just regular,
Well, that's good,
just
man.
another thing. Keep in mind, for 15 years I worked with bad hygiene and accidents, puke, stuff like that. So like it's just another thing. That's not a big deal.
And what's funny, I will say you guys do keep those vans clean, because you talked about, like being... Are
you trolling me?
No.
Okay.
No.
You know about that though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of my favorite memories so far, and I mean, I don't ride shotgun with you ever, but like, I was thinking about this earlier. A really funny memory I have is like, you got me into collecting vinyl, you and Preston, and I remember we went to the record store here in town because Paranormal Experience, which is a really badass food truck here, was going to be there. So we ran over to look at some records, got breakfast, and you're like, fuck it, you want to eat in the van?
Yeah.
And I just remember sitting there like, I'm not sure what fucking universe we live in and what like the alternate dimension me is doing right now, but I'm literally eating a Bigfoot burrito and, paranormal themed tater tots in a fucking mortuary van.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean,
are good.
They are. They're hella good, man. Shout out to Paranormal Experience
For
on
sure.
a really bizarre episode of our show that they're probably like, maybe not a shout out.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I didn't think about it, but yeah, the van is super clean, man. I can attest there are no funky smells.
Yeah. And what I mean by the trolling is that my boss is very particular about the way he wants things done, considering to the vehicles, for good reason. You want to have a good image.
Yeah.
You want to have cleanliness and stuff like that. But sometimes it can get a little overbearing on how many times we got to wash that fucking thing. So I thought you were gonna, and I complained about it. So I'm like, are you trolling me?
No, not at all. We live in that shit, dude. In Preston and I's job, we clean shit to the point where like we're literally cleaning the surface off of some of the tables. So
Yeah, no
all
shit.
good, man. We get it. And of course,
sure.
like take pride in that because I'm sure in that type of job, like it could be easy to be just like, fuck it. Yeah, I washed it. And then,
Yeah.
you know, you don't want to pull up and somebody walk out to ask you a question and look in the back of a van and be like, ew, this is where you take my grandpa?
Yeah. True that.
And then, do you help with preparing the body, or is it more of a pickup only sort of thing? Like, what all does your job really entail?
So like for me, I have my phone on, I get a text. The text will say what funeral home it is, person's name, where they're at, what they want done, and any kind of details. Their weight, is there tight spaces, are they COVID, et cetera, et cetera. Anything we need to know, and a contact number for either the nurse or the officer. And then if they're at the hospital, we don't need a contact number because it's a hospital. So with that, you go pick up the person, take them where they need to go, whether that's crematory, sometimes direct delivery to funeral home, or embalming. Embalming, yes, I do pull the person out, get them out of their bag, get them out of the clothes, prep them with these like spacers to like prop their arms up so when they lay in the casket, there's no marks, and they're basically getting their body to form fit for when you light of a better word, drain the person to put the embalming fluid in. It's so their arms are better when they lay in a casket. I mean, everybody's seen a person in a casket, so you know what it looks like. Mm-hmm. So help with that. Because we are a small company, we all do everything. So I've helped with cremations. Not so much like actually pushing the button because you have to be a crematory license operator to do that. We like to operate the machine, but I've helped with the process of. I'm not a crematory operator, so I don't know the technical terms, but basically use this tool to scrape the bottom of the retort to get every single piece of the individual's cremains out into this pan to be processed through a machine that turns it to fine dust. So stuff like that. Sometimes when you're crematory, when they're in there, it's burning, it's very hot. You have to turn slash position an individual so then they cremate more
like
evenly.
A rotisserie.
Well,
I'll cut that part out.
Yeah, no, you can leave it in there. It's pretty funny. So yeah, man, I do everything. We always tagging bodies because I don't know this person. I've never seen him before.
Yeah.
How am I going to know what they are? So it's very important for identification. Everything, man. I mean, I've helped prep a body for viewing. Sometimes we do viewings at the crematory. I wash vans.
You wear a lot of hats, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where they're like, so Steve, what do you do here? And you're just like, what don't I do here?
Some other things I do is I remove pacemakers from an individual.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
That's scalpel and I mean, they're connected usually by 2 to 3 wires, and you just yank them out. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's still weird every time I do it.
I didn't know you did that. That's wild.
Yeah. Because if you put a person in with people have a lot of shit in them, especially the older people. So stints, or not stints, but rods and springs and fucking staple, all kinds of weird shit.
Hardware, yeah.
Pieces of bullet. It's crazy. So obviously some of that stuff doesn't burn. So we have to put in this processor. We have to use this magnet, and magnets, how the fuck do they work? use this magnet and like you do this like crushing method and it picks up all these little small things. And sometimes you'll get like full big pieces out of there. So you never want a pacemaker to go in there because a pacemaker, the metal that's in there will melt. And the way it melts, it turns into these little bitty like hard little BBs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they go everywhere, and it can damage the cement that's the brick that's inside of there that handles the heat and shit.
Interesting.
So yeah,
can a pacemaker explode too? I mean, if it gets hot enough,
like out of a person? No, that's what it does.
Okay,
it
like
gets,
an exploding cell phone. Yeah.
Yeah, it cooks inside of the pacemaker and it explodes with all them balls, and then as soon as that metal hits that fire, it turns into them balls.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I know, like with Dad, we actually had to wait for the technician to come and shut off the pacemaker because they're like, if we do anything else, like the minute he flatlines, like the pacemaker is going to register and shock him back to life.
Oh my God!
Like it could even after he's dead, if like the wiring gets messed up, so he could actually be on the way to the mortuary. And like a signal or whatever could hit it, turn it back on, and like shock him back to life. So they're really super particular about things like that.
Wow.
Any type of medical device, yeah.
Huh.
So
For sure.
Interesting.
And I thought, the preparation of the body, I always thought that was really interesting because, everybody I've known who's passed away, like we've always had them embalmed, and they look different. And I think that for me always kind of helps with the grieving process because then when you got to go to a funeral and you're looking at them, like technically that doesn't look like them. They look like a different person. So you're just like, well, fuck. I mean, that's not Dad in the coffin. I don't know what the fuck that is, but cool. Let's get this over with.
Yeah. Yeah.
My aunt chose not to get embalmed at all.
Direct burial.
Yeah, so when she had passed, she had already prepaid for her funeral and prepaid for all the services and everything. And so being like the power of attorney, like, I had to be the one to like go sign off on this and go sign off on that. And so we were waiting for my cousin to get in town from Arizona. And the guy at the funeral home was like, she only paid for like 2 days of refrigeration. I'm like, listen, can you just like, how much is it going to be? Because I'll write you a check right now. Like, I have family coming in out of town. Can like we figure this out? And ended up it was going to be like an extra day. So he's like, I won't charge you guys. But whatever, Ken was like, just like, dude, I want to be able to tell Aunt Janet goodbye. And he's like, well, technically she didn't pay for a viewing, so you guys can't do it. And so because the guy had told Ken no, he was like, fuck that. And so he wouldn't let it go, and he just kept going at it. So finally, because Ken and I were both like powers of attorney, like after everybody left, he opened up the casket at the cemetery, and she just looked normal. Like it was such a weird contrast that not being embalmed, how the body looks. But then, like, the wind, that cold October wind would pick up, and you would get a whiff of old Aunt Janet. All right,
Awesome.
We're done here. I'm like,
Great.
That's Janet. We said goodbye. Let's go ahead and close the casket and get the fuck out of here.
Now, a couple things that you're talking about. First off, we'll talk about the funeral home after we get off the air. Fuck that. Like, that is, we'll get into a little bit after how you change the bottom. There's a question that I'll get into this more, but funeral homes cut a lot of corners, and that's just laziness. They could have easily had that. When a person passes away, they don't need to be embalmed to have a viewing. If you want to see your loved one with their mouth wide open, looking the way that they picked them up off the floor, just a little bit dehydrated from the cooling, you can do that. You just have to be adamant, and you have to tell the funeral director, like, this is what I want. Oh man.
To back that up, like, so there's the town that Janet and Dad were buried in is a small town. So there's two funeral homes, and the one that Dad went to, shout out to him. He was like really awesome about it. Like the process was really easy, and so when we asked, like even though we weren't paying for like a public viewing, when he had called us back, I forget what we had to go back in for. But he's like, hey, I got your dad in the casket. I got him prepared. I mean, if it's just you guys, you just want to go ahead and say goodbye real quick. Like for him, it wasn't an issue. And, this winter we went in to go check and see if the headstone had been placed, and it hadn't. But that funeral home had went to every person that they buried that year and put a Christmas wreath over the temporary markers. But then you go to the other funeral home, the guy's like, well, fuck, you guys didn't fucking pay for that. I don't think so. That's not allowed. And I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and you'll run into that. I mean, every funeral home's different. Every funeral director is different. Yeah. It's just like when you go to your bank and you say, something happened to your account, maybe you got scammed and you just need that $50 back they scammed you out of. The bank can clearly tell you you've been scammed. Or maybe you had an overdraft fee and you explain to the bank teller your situation. Stroke of a fucking button. They have that power to do that.
Yeah, right.
It's just whether they want to do that or not. It's the same way in the funeral business. Charging someone to see their loved one. I mean, I can understand a big service. That takes time out of your day. You got to plan it. You got to hire the staff. But if you're doing a viewing in a room, come on.
Yeah.
It's so disrespectful, so ridiculous.
Right.
But
yeah, that's why I get my balls busted all the time for, oh, here's old man Sean. He wants to fucking go into the bank and talk to the teller, or he wants to go fucking cash his dinner ticket at the fucking register instead of paying at the table. Like, I am my father's son, and I do find that a lot of times being polite to people and talking and having that one-on-one gets you a lot farther, and sometimes gets you a little bit more than like just flying off the handle and just going ape shit on people for no reason. Like,
yep.
You always ask. You're always polite the first time. But like my father, I'm pretty cool, calm, and collected, easygoing. I don't want to have to tell you. I'll ask you. I'll be polite. But like, when I do become a dick, I make up for every time I wasn't.
Yeah.
But funny thing about my dad, real quick, has nothing to do with death. But for an example as to why it pays to talk to people, we went to this fish truck. There's this really cool food truck that comes to Derby quite a bit. I think it's called like Off the Hook or On the Hook. Little fried fish and chips truck. We go there once a month with mom and dad. Shayla and I do. And like my dad and I got in the car, drove up there to get food. We roll up and these ladies are walking back from the truck and they're like, guys, they shut down early. Their fryers broke. And we're like, shit, really? And they said, yeah. And then
You're like, what the fuck?
Another couple walks by. Yeah, guys, the fryers went down. They're out of food. They got to leave early. All right. Well, my dad's like, hold on a sec. He walks over and he's like, boys out of fish? And they're like, yeah, fryers went down. We couldn't finish frying up everything. And boss told us to cut it an hour early and, move on to the next city and get the truck fixed. My dad's like, all right. Well, where are you guys headed? Just shooting the shit. Because my dad loves people. And then the guy looks over and sees my Pac-Man tattoo. And he's like, shit, is that a Pac-Man tattoo? And I was like, oh yeah, man, check it out. And my dad's like, well, hell, show him the rest of it. So like I pull up my sleeve and show him the video game tattoo. And then the other guy leans his head out the window. Holy shit, that Mario's badass. And the guy's kind of like whisper for a second. And then the guy's like, here, take this. And it was like, I don't know, like 12 pieces of fish that just came out of the fryer. And my dad's like, what's this? And he says, well, the fish came out of the fryer right before it broke down. We just couldn't cook any fries. And so we were told to shut down and go early. So the guy's like, here, just take this. And my dad's like, well, now let me give you a little bit of money here. And the guy's like, no, you guys are cool as hell. It's really nice talking to you. Take all this fish.
That's awesome.
And my dad's like, they could have given that fish to anybody else, but that's why sometimes it pays just to be nice.
So what happened is that you Tommy Boyed him.
Right. No shit.
Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman. Let me tell you something. How about I go turn on that fryer for you and get you them wings?
With the Talking Death series that we're doing, some of the books that I've read, I've come across like where ambulance drivers, when somebody dies in the ambulance, and they're in the process of transporting the body, they talk about how like there's a light phenomenon where like they'll see kind of like a light glow or this ambient light that they really can't find out like what the source is, but the inside of the ambulance kind of gets brighter for a second, or they experience like a change in temperature when they're hauling the dead body. So what you got, bro? You got any good stories?
Well, I mean, with this being a paranormal podcast, I'd love to tell you that I've experienced it all. I've not. I mean, and that could be because I've never experienced anything paranormal. But it also could be just the fact that, I pick up a person after they've been gone for a while.
Yeah.
The freshest body I've picked up, maybe an hour, if that. So, like, I don't know. It depends what you want to believe, that person could already be gone. The person is already gone. They're a husk at that point. It's a cadaver. It's a body.
Yeah.
Their soul's gone. Whoever they were, what they stood for, how they talked, how they ate, everything. Who they were as a person, gone. You know what I mean? Life not there. I've never experienced anything. I would love to. Maybe not when I'm driving. I don't want to fucking die. But
No. You rolled the van.
Fuck.
Have you heard like the gurgles and stuff like that? Like if you heard a death
all
moan?
the time.
Yeah,
All
I
the
bet
time.
so. I bet so, man. Well, what's something that you learned about this business that maybe people don't know, or maybe you didn't know?
So to piggyback off what Preston was saying earlier is the funeral homes and some of them the laziness, some of them the shadiness. Like there's so many ways to go about. I mean, like we said, it's profitable. Funerals are extremely profitable. The dead is extremely profitable. So just learning the ins and outs of that, it's more of like every big business, big profession is corrupt in some way, especially in a country that's, loves its capitalization or whatever the fuck it is, whatever you call it, making money all the time. So that's one thing. I won't get into specifics, because I don't want to talk bad about any of the funeral homes because there are great people that work there. But I mean, it's just a business and it sucks. Something learned about the business, sense of humor. Like I said before, a lot of people have very twisted sense of humor, which I've always had a twisted sense of humor, and it's cool to be around similar people. People, especially in this time in our world, where comedy is very subjective, and it's not protected like it used to be. So to be protected around people that have that sense of humor, it's pretty awesome. Control issues.
Sure.
It's a lot of that. The one thing you can't control in life is your death. It's gonna happen. You ain't gonna live forever. So a lot of people have control issues, and mix that with the irritability, the lack of sleep. It can be kind of brutal sometimes. But with that, to counterbalance that, you let shit go easier. With your coworkers and other funeral homes to a degree. I kind of reset the day, but every time I drive by, I'm like, motherfucker. But like, it's just one of them things. Like, it's just a lot of people have control issues, including myself.
Sure.
Lack of sleep. That's the thing is people might not know is that when you don't get sleep, it does affect your life. I mean, unfortunately, I had to go to the hospital last week from a blockage. And that's because of medicines and dehydration shit. I mean, like I drink so much fucking water, but because of the medicines and the activities I do, it's not enough, So like that, it takes a toll on your body, especially with like lifting and stuff. And the one thing is the donation process. When you go to DMV, they ask you if you want to be a donor. A lot of people just say, "Oh yeah, I'm dead. What do I care for what they use?" Depending on your culture, what you believe in too, But the donation process is really cool. Our company has a contract with Midwest Transplant Network, which is in Kansas City. And I think they have one in Topeka, maybe, but we always do the Kansas City one, which is the tissue suite. We'll take an individual up there. We could pick them up at a hospital, could pick them up from a coroner, sometimes a funeral home, and deliver them to Kansas City up there. And then that's where they harvest tissue, bones, organs, eyes, penis. Oh, I've heard that.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, like colons. Yeah, it's weird, man. Yeah. Anything. The human body is a money machine.
Oh, wow.
Just not too long ago.
Yeah.
Well, Jerry, we got good news for you. We found you a slightly used asshole. It'll be here tomorrow morning.
Slightly used asshole.
Like just for like example, not too long ago in a surrounding city, there was a murder-suicide of 2 younger people. And the murdered victim was very young, 24, 25. And that's a viable body for donation. So it's very important to get a younger person because they, like I said, they don't pass away at that time.
Oh,
so their body is extremely valuable, not just from a money sense, but for organs and, benefiting someone else's life.
Yeah, right.
And just like that stuff times out. Like, your body, even though your body shut down and ceases to function, some of your organs are still cool. So think of it like, you have a thermos cup and you have water in there, some ice from the morning. By the time the noon rolls around, the ice will be less, but it'll still be cold.
Yeah, that
type of thing. So that some of the organs still work. Not work, but like they're in dormant, they're chilling.
Yeah. They're still.
So like someone like that individual that young, if that body times out, it's a big deal. Like fireable. Suable. You could be held liable, and a body like that could go anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million.
Yeesh.
Because you think about how expensive medicine is, and like surgeries and donations and transplants, and it's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. So, that's the sad part is the monetization of the medical industry in that aspect, and profiting through medicine. And I'm not trying to badmouth, doctors and all that kind of stuff, but I mean that's a realization that we have to look at is.
Well, we can badmouth insurance companies and big pharma. Fuck all them.
Fuck them.
So another thing I learned is that we are going in a direction in our world. Embalming is becoming less and less and less. Cremation is on an all-time rise, and usually it's because of economic reasons.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and but like it's crazy because it's actually a good thing because a lot of people don't want to do work these days. Even people who have the education, who went to school for it. There's a couple funeral homes around the area that have 9 people who are certified to embalm. And only one of them does embalmings.
Really? Wow.
Yep. Because people just don't want to embalm. It's time consuming. It's gross. But like it has to be done, and some people like it's an art. Like I've seen really shitty embalmings, and I've seen really really good ones. And luckily, my boss he's like got a reputation of being extremely attention to detail, and embalming good and stuff like that. So it's just interesting to see that like everybody wants to be a funeral director and meet with families, but nobody wants to get their hands dirty, so to speak. So seeing that because like think about it, it's like death and funerals are so awkward. You don't like going to them because most time you go to them, it's for somebody you cared about, and it's gonna make you sad. Right. So when you go into a funeral home with no attachment, it makes you look at things differently. You notice things differently. You see the inner politics of the place, in the industry. It's really fucking interesting.
Damn.
So yeah, that's some of the things that people might not know.
Well, what's interesting too about cremation is I remember, it's been a little over a year ago, the effects of cremation. I'm not trying to be all hippy dippy and, new age, but the process of cremation, I think we'll see evolve as well because of the effects it has on air quality. You know, in
Do you think they're gonna have like a machine like Back to the Future 2 where you put that little pizza in, where you just like put the body in there and hit the button and they're just zapped?
just ding, dehydrated. Well, like what I'm saying is, you know, in January of 2021, I believe, something interesting happened in California because of the amount of deaths with coronavirus on top of just natural deaths. The agency that regulates air quality control had to put the kibosh and limit the number of cremations California was allowed to do. And at one point, I believe they had to pause the cremations because the sheer amount of bodies being, you know, burned was polluting.
The gases and smoke.
The gases and the smoke was polluting the air to a point where they're like, hey,
but think about that.
We got to stop.
What's even crazier is that's even during California, New York obviously got hit really hard with COVID stuff.
Sure.
And they were very strict on their quarantine processes and isolation, stuff like that. So with that, traffic stopped. You know what I mean? Like cars became like the people still drive, of course, but like it became like a lot of cars. It was a lot less carbon monoxide out there, cars running.
Yeah.
So to even have like a worse air quality when that's down, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is.
Because usually, like a lot of other places, the air quality was better because less people, like somewhere like Seattle, the air quality probably got better because people weren't driving, you know what I mean? Staying in where they need to. They're more liberal. They're going to follow the rules, so to speak. So, you know, they're going to, you know what I mean? Like they're more like, you know, the type of people that pay attention to global warming and, you know, caring about that type of stuff. So, and following what the mandates were.
Yeah, sure.
Stay at home, only use your vehicle if you need to, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas other places, the people don't give a shit. Their quality still stayed like shit. It's just really, it's interesting that you brought that up, especially with the cremations. Anybody ever thought of that?
Yeah. They put them on like a 10-day restriction where they can only, you know, cremate so many bodies each day, just because it was just beginning to affect the quality of air that would be in such a way it would be harmful for people in the area. So,
Yeah.
Well, we'll finish her off with one more question, Steve, before we end the episode. And I just want to ask, like, what's changed or how have you changed your view on, you know, death and life as well over this last year as you've been, you know, doing this profession?
Well, like, I mean, changing your view on death, I think that's kind of hard to do. And because, like, I mean, it depends if a person's afraid to die or not afraid to die. I'm not afraid of death. So, like, it's natural. It's going to happen. You ain't going to see it coming majority of the time. You know what I mean? Unless, you know, it's the end stages of a person's life. But I'm not afraid of it. So, and being around it, now that I've been around so many bodies and death, like, it's not a big deal to me. But what it did is, like, this job gave me life. Like, hands down, it's improved my mental health. It's improved my, not all my relationships, but a lot of my relationships. And it's also, it's a pro and a con. What I mean by that with the relationships is that, like, I met my girlfriend while doing this job. Yeah. And, you know, we're doing really well. And it's become more patient with her and her son, you know, looking at things differently. But, like, on the same thing as, like, when someone like me who puts so much effort and thought into friendships because I don't have a good family system, feeling isolated from friendships, not having time, seeing the things I see, even though I don't compartmentalize it, I don't obsess about it, I don't think about it all the time, but, like, sometimes it's hard to process what you're seeing, and then that leads to anger and frustration and irritability, and then, like, you don't want to take it out on your friends and the relationships of your friends or people close to you. You feel like they don't give a shit because, you know, I'll have somebody that I used to talk to on a daily basis message me about something, and I'm like, what the fuck is the point of that? Like,
Sure.
what you're writing about, what you're upset about, it's nothing compared to like, I went to this person's house and saw this and this and this. Like, and it's weird because everybody goes through their own shit,
Sure.
And it's just it makes me look at conversations, relationships, everything different. I've drifted away from a lot of people, and that's just because of everything going on in our society, politics, everything. I mean, we're getting everybody's getting attacked by all sides, all the time, from mental health to physical health. I mean, everything, dude.
Yeah, sure.
So seeing this job, it's gave me more life. I look at everything differently all the time. It's improved my life. Like I said, I go on a lot more trips and getaways type of stuff. We're going on a cruise on. Let's go here. Let's go. We're going March 21st or 20th through April 21st. Sorry, April 20th through the 24th or something like that. So it'll be pretty cool to go on that. I'm so goddamn stoked for it.
I bet, man.
So yeah, it's cool to be able to work a good job. I think I'm paid pretty well. We're at a weird time right now with jobs and how much people think they should be paid. What is good to be paid, what is not good to be paid. I'm happy with what I get paid. It's the most I've ever made at a job. I don't have education other than high school and, the internet research, like
Oh,
I don't have a degree type of shit, you know what I'm saying? So like, this is what I do and it's a job that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And
yeah, true.
I enjoy it. And, I work, sometimes I'll have 18 calls in a day. Sometimes I'll only have 2. You take it with where it goes. Like tomorrow I wake up, I have to be there 8 o'clock for deliveries, and then I work, and we just switch our schedules, and it's fucking amazing. So tomorrow my schedule is 8 in the morning to 5 p.m. I'm in charge of calls. So every single call I go on, and then the next day I won't have the first call van. I'll be backup. So I only do house calls and whatever else needs to be done for the day.
Nice.
So it's like, it's really laid back. We get to come and go as we want. It's really cool.
Hell yeah, dude.
It's a very, very unique job. And I appreciate you guys asking about it, listening, and listeners listening to me talk about it. I hope I didn't offend anybody, piss anybody off, type of thing. But
only piss and shit hoarders, I think. May have
yeah.
Something that I really enjoy hearing about with your job is you've always been fascinated by war since I've known you, and I should say history. You've always been fascinated by the history of
Depends on the war. What we got going on now. Fuck that.
No, yeah, without a doubt. But
mainly World War II.
Right.
I'm very obsessed with the history on that, like tenfold.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, you've told us stories about how like you've gone to pick up the deceased, and then you'll meet somebody who like maybe their wife has passed away, and it'll be like a World War II veteran. And that's what's cool, that I know you outside of, the podcast, and I've known you as long or longer than, most of our mutual friends. And you've always had such a rapport with people, but it's so cool to hear you, use that on these calls and take a moment to reach, somebody and make a connection with somebody. And you're not just there to pick up, the deceased and move them away. Like, you make a point to try to connect to them and talk to them,
Yeah.
And you have, you've met some war veterans and stuff. And that's just so cool, man. And like, I don't know that everybody does that. I would hope everybody makes that connection, but like, that's what I appreciate about it.
It's hard to think, man, because you got to think we're the first communications, first call.
Yeah.
We are the face of that funeral home. I don't work for that funeral home. I work for the transport service, but I'm there representing that funeral home. So True. 9 times out of 10, I'm giving a better service to them than
Sure.
Okay.
Maybe,
so with that being said, I also, like I said earlier, I my eyes are like a hawk. I like looking at people's lives, like looking at their house. Like, a lot of these houses we go into, they're incredible. You see a lot of cool antiques. You see a lot of awesome culture items, stuff like that. So when I walk into a house and I can clearly see this person is served, like it's a big deal to me. And like I make it known. I thank their family. I thank them. You know, if I notice pictures on the wall, I'll ask about that, you know, stuff like that. And just them little touches always. And I don't do it for the clout. I don't do it to get the text.
Yeah.
But getting that feedback, like the funeral home will message the boss and be like, this family just called. They said he was amazing. He took the time. He really cared about this person, the family, and like it's really good. And you know, and that's the other thing is like you said, like I am very social, very verbal. So like and I'm not really socially embarrassed or awkward. So like I can go into a place, talk to people, and it's no problem. Make them feel comfortable. And I think that my last 15 years of that job helped me with that. You learn how to talk to people a certain way when they're disabled, because you have to be able to be direct and clear and not get a person confused. And dude, it's taught me so much in the job that I'm in now.
Sure.
So being able to have conversation with people and be meaningful, you know. I talked about a lot of like fucked up calls and stuff like that, but a lot of the calls, majority of them are just people, hospice, passing away in their home with their loved ones, or someone dying on a toilet or dying on the bed. And it's, you know, it's all natural. And a lot of hospital stuff, like, you know, people passing away from surgeries or, you know, ICUs, emergency rooms, stuff like that. So having them moments where it makes it really worth it, especially World War II veterans, because they're not going to be around much longer. They're in the very near future. So it's very interesting to see that. And the Vietnam veterans are becoming a very popular thing now as well.
So, I see a lot of that. Yeah, my dad. Yeah, we talked about that before. My dad and Big John Wiener, Preston's dad, you know, were involved in Vietnam, and you know, I try to call those people out, and I try to take a page out of your book, man, and make it more. You should, man. More than just especially thanks for your service and, you know, a weak handshake. But I try to talk to him more and learn a little more about him, you know, as I.
And I think for me, when it comes to that type of thing, is like, you know, I haven't been to many houses where it's an Iraq or Afghanistan war veteran. That type of war where my views on that war are different from my views on Vietnam or World War II. Something like World War II, it's a war that was terrible, and it stood for something so important, and it literally changed the shape of the world. Whereas somewhere like Vietnam was pointless and terrible. And then so when I meet Vietnam veterans, it's like it's that much harder, so to speak. When you meet a World War II veteran, it's I don't know how to say it, like, because you think, like Preston's talked about what John went through, like coming back, you know, how people treated him and looked at him and stuff like that. There was a lot of that with that. So when you meet them people from Vietnam, being able to show them like support and, you know, and show their family that love, because I guarantee they probably talked about Vietnam with their family and how they were treated when they got back, you know, and shit like that. So showing that respect is extremely important.
I think, what you're referencing is the argument that, you know, Vietnam, we didn't have to be there, so to speak. And that's why so many people, you know, had a disdain for soldiers, is you shouldn't have been there. Well, I mean,
whereas like World War II, like, you know, it's, I mean, I met somebody who witnessed the final test of the atomic bomb. And like, that's crazy. That's fucking insane. I met a person that was on the beaches of Normandy. That I met another person that arrived the day after D-Day.
Wow.
And it's just a Red Sea for miles and miles, and being shown like journal entries and letters they wrote to their girlfriends or wives at the time. It's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway. So it's a good job, and it's taught me a lot, even though some days I'm over it. But
that's anybody, man. That's all of us at our jobs.
Yeah.
Well, dude.
Main thing is, man, don't be weird around death, It's going to happen to everybody,
Yeah.
fortunately. Unless you're Elon Musk or Bezos.
Right. Oh, shit. Well, dude, we really appreciate you taking time to talk to us and, being kind of candid about some of this stuff, because it is awkward to some folks, and that's why I'll put a pretty hefty warning at the beginning of the episode. But yeah, it's nice to hear about this man. It kind of sheds a light on, an industry, a job that I didn't know much about until you started doing it. I just figured that people rolled up in a van, took the body, and delivered it. And not a van. I figured people just rolled up in a hearse.
Another question that's extremely common regarding cremation: a body will never be burnt with another body.
Okay.
This isn't Germany, World War II era.
Yeah.
This it's very morally wrong to do that, and it'll break your machine. Basically, I mean, it's not going to break your machine, but it's going to wear down your machine more. But the main thing is that it's morally fucked, and no one does it. And there's just so many regulations, and you got to type in this stuff and stuff like that. But it's so common. Is my loved one? Is that really all that person in that container? I mean, I've seen a person that's 500 pounds be cremated, and it can all fit in half of a container.
Yeah.
Then I'd see a 120-pound person fill up 2 boxes. It's all different.
Yeah.
All burns are different. It's really weird. Huh. But when you get cremains from anywhere, any respectable funeral home, which is pretty much all of them. And you get cremains, they're going to be your loved one. It's not mixed. It's not put into a big barrel, like none of that shit.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know.
I know it's like a last fact for the show, but it just popped in my head because a lot of people ask that a lot.
Interesting. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure as we continue talking about death, we may take a break from it for a little while and come back to it, but I'm sure we'll have your insight on many more episodes, man. So
cool.
Well, hell, I mean, this episode makes up for a lot of the shorter ones we've been doing recently. This thing will top out around, probably about an hour and 40, hour and 45, so.
Yeah.
So, real quick, I just want to add kind of a punctuation to the end of this episode. After listening to the episode while doing the edit, I just want to say thank you to all you listeners for not only listening to the show in general, but also for listening to the last 2 episodes. This one and the previous 230. I think it's not only important to do these last 2 shows to shed an interesting light on, what it's like for Steven as a mortuary driver, but also it's been incredibly important to take a small glimpse into Steven as a whole. I've said this many times before. Steven is one of the most important people to me in my life. He's a very good friend of mine, and I gotta say, I've seen so much growth in him, not only over the last several years that we've been good friends, but also, especially over the last year or so. And what he said, and I'll paraphrase here, but when he said that working with the dead is what gave him life, it's not only true, but that in itself is something that's truly amazing. This whole last few years has been brutal for so many of us, and the rise to glory, so to speak, that Steven has made in the last year is something pretty wonderful. And I'm so thankful that he has found this job, and also that he's really excelled in it. And he's so good at it. He's so good with people. And I'm not sure if he listens to these episodes after we post them or not, but Steven, the world is a far better place with you in it. And I, for one, am a far better person for being able to call you a friend. And this goes without saying, everybody, if you've ever had a problem that seems too heavy anytime, or if you're having a hard time right now, please ask for help. Talk to somebody you trust, your friends, your family, a church, anybody you find solace in, and you can find a moment just to unload something heavy. Don't hold it in. It's really important for everyone to know that there is no shame ever in asking for help. And we've shared this phone number before, and I think it's important to share it again. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. And I think we may have mentioned this before, but something important to know. On suicidepreventionlifeline.org, there is a special announcement that says Lifeline has a new number now, 988. 988 has been designated as a new 3-digit dialing code that will route callers straight to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. And it says here that currently most people in the U.S. should be able to use that 3-digit number to streamline straight to the hotline. It should be available to everybody across the U.S. starting by July 16th, 2022. Well, as always, guys, if you're on the social medias, please check us out on Instagram at PXL Paranormal, on the Facebook, the Pixelated Paranormal Podcast. Presto, what do you got on YouTube?
We're up to like 172 subscribers now.
Yeah.
So we're growing.
Hell yeah.
And we're growing quick.
My brother just subbed, and he just texted me and said he was the 172nd person.
Boom.
Dope.
So, you know what? Be like Kevin and help grow YouTube. Get your butts over there. Like, subscribe, share to all your friends. We had a listener message us today on Facebook that, the episodes have gone missing on Pandora. And I've noticed a few services where, like Podbean, so if you actually use Podbean to listen to your podcast, we're on there, but we only have one episode.
Oh, wow.
But iTunes, solid. So if you're not an Apple user, guess what? YouTube, solid.
Spotify,
because
as well.
Spotify, yeah.
I have all the Spotify, boom. On YouTube, I have all the videos up except for the news episodes that don't have a generalized topic. So all the heavy-hitting shows like this one, as soon as the audio gets produced, never fear, it'll be up and it'll be on YouTube and you can listen to it right away. So, let's keep growing and, you know what? Do your part. I'm going to be like Uncle Sam and pointing the finger at you. And then, you know what? Think to yourself, one day you're going to be in the back of, the Ecto-1 or, Steve's van. And if you don't want to stink up the joint and you got a beard, you should go over to BigDobsBeardMom.com and use promo code PXLPARA for 20% off your order, because the only thing on you that won't stink is your face, because Big Dob's Beard Balm smells fucking amazing. You have bay rum, Dundee cedar, sweet, tobacco, fresh, citrus, mint, and classic. And barrel aged. Sometimes he throws back the barrel aged, and I still have a bottle of that, and that's the fucking tits right there. So do yourself a favor, go over to Dobbs, and get it all for your beard and for Steve.
Hell yeah.
For sure.
To touch on the other streaming services, we're working on getting that fixed. We're working on transitioning things over from Mark being our host as far as posting all the shows over to us, to where we'll be in control of that. And I will get with Mark and figure out why we've fallen off some of those services. It could be something simple, like we just have to refresh the feed. I just need to talk to Mark about that and look and see if that's something easy to fix. But we're working on getting that taken care of as well. So, all right. And finally, if you're in the Wichita area, please stop by, see our dear friend Leslie and the rest of the gang over at CD Trade Post at Pawnee and Seneca. And with my dog snoring in the background, I would like to say cheers to the weird shit in the world and those of us who love to talk about it.
And stay spooky and stay on the paranormal highway.
The cast at Pixelated Paranormal would like to thank you for listening to this week's episode. Pixelated Paranormal is here to tell you tales of the fantastical, the strange, the unknown. Tales that will move you a little further down the paranormal highway. If you'd like to share your own listener story, we would love to hear it. Email us at pixelatedparanormal@gmail.com. Again, that's pixelatedparanormal@gmail.com. We'd really love to hear from you. Again, thanks for listening to this week's episode of Pixelated Paranormal, your guide to the unusual and the strange.